The war hall of the Zyran Empire was a place where most humans never returned from. Cold blue lights glowed from the tall crystal pillars, and dozens of alien guards stood in perfect silence. Their armor looked like sharpened bone, and their eyes followed every movement with deadly focus. Into this hall walked Evan Hale, a captured human mechanic. His wrists were locked with glowing cuffs, and two guards pushed him forward. He expected punishment, maybe even execution. But instead, he found the most feared ruler in 5 galaxies standing in front of him, Empress Kilira, tall, elegant, and terrifyingly calm. Her armor, made of living biometal, was cracked across her chest plate. No Zyran engineer dared to touch it, because one wrong move could react with her heart and kill her instantly. But she looked at Evan as if he was her only option. "Human," she said slowly, her golden eyes studying his face. "Fix my armor." The hall froze. Evan's breath caught. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. He was simply a mechanic who fixed broken machines. But this was different. If he made even a small mistake, she could die, and he would definitely die afterward. A guard hissed, "If you fail, human, your end will be slow." Evan didn't reply. He stepped forward, palms sweating. His tools were handed to him, and Kilira lifted her cape, exposing the damaged chest plate. The metal pulsed like a living creature, breathing softly. Evan swallowed hard and began his work. The first touch sent a shock through the armor. The living metal curled slightly around his fingers, reacting to his warmth. Kilira inhaled sharply, and for a moment Evan feared he'd hurt her. Then her voice came low, dangerously soft. "Careful, that part's sensitive." The guards moved their hands to their weapons. Evan froze. But Kilira's eyes, they were not angry. They were calm, curious, almost gentle. Evan focused again. He steadied his breath and used a micro tool to lift a broken nerve thread. The armor reacted, glowing faintly. He worked with slow, careful movements, something the Zyran engineers never had the patience for. Minutes passed. The hall stayed silent. Every alien watched the human with disbelief. No human had ever dared to be this close to the Empress, and no human was expected to survive such a task. Kilira noticed a tiny tremble in his hands and spoke quietly, "You fear my guards." Evan replied without looking up, "No, I fear breaking something important." A small smile touched her lips, a rare thing in the Empire. For the first time, the Empress saw a human who did not tremble before her. Finally, with one last careful adjustment, the broken section of the chest plate snapped back into perfect shape. The armor pulsed once, then settled. Evan stepped back. "It's fixed," he said simply. Kilira touched the repaired spot. It responded to her heartbeat smoothly, better than before. The hall filled with shocked whispers. The Empress looked at Evan for a long moment and said, "You did what my people could not." And from that moment on, everything in the Empire began to change. The hall remained silent long after Evan stepped away from the Empress. No one knew what would happen next. Humans were not praised in the Zyran Empire. Humans were not trusted. Humans were tools, and tools were replaceable. But Empress Kilira did not look at Evan like he was replaceable. She touched the repaired chest plate again. The armor responded with a soft golden shimmer, warming under her fingers. It had never reacted like this to any Zyran engineer, only to the human standing quietly in front of her. A high-ranking commander finally broke the silence. "Your Majesty, shall we remove the human now? His task is done." Every guard expected the same answer. Dispose of him. But Kilira raised her hand. "No, he stays." A cold shock spread across the room. The commander blinked in disbelief. "Stay? For what purpose?" Kilira turned to Evan, her expression unreadable but sharp. "I want him as my personal armor specialist." Evan felt his heart stop. Armor specialist? In the Zyran Empire? That was not a job. That was a death sentence waiting to happen. The commander stepped forward, voice shaking with anger. "Your Majesty, this is impossible. A human cannot serve in the royal chamber. It is against every law." Kilira silenced him with a single stare. "My armor trusts him." She spoke slowly, clearly, so no one could argue. And I trust what my armor chooses. The hall erupted with whispers. Did she say trust? With a human? Is she losing her mind? Evan stood still, unsure if he should speak. Finally, he asked, "Your Majesty, why me?" Kilira stepped closer. Her presence was powerful, almost overwhelming, but her voice was calm. You worked without fear. You focused. You respected the armor. A Zyran cannot do that. Only someone with steady hands and a quiet mind can fix living metal. Evan didn't know what to say. He wasn't quiet by choice. He was terrified. But she didn't need to know that. A guard handed him a new set of tools. Real Zyran tools. Expensive. Honored. Not something given to a prisoner. You will be moved to the inner palace, the guard said reluctantly. By the Empress's order. The commander leaned close to Evan, whispering so only he could hear. You should have died today. Instead, you stand close to power. Be careful, human. Those who rise quickly fall even faster. Evan swallowed, but kept his eyes forward. Kilira began walking toward the throne doors, then paused and looked back. Human, she said, follow me. Evan obeyed. As he walked behind her, he noticed something strange. The palace guards looked at him not with hatred now, but with fear. Because if the Empress trusted him, then harming him became dangerous. For the first time, Evan realized he was no longer just a prisoner. He was becoming something else. Something the Empire didn't have a word for yet. And the Empress, she seemed almost curious to see what he would become. Evan's new room inside the inner palace didn't look like a prison cell. It was small, yes, but clean, warm, and guarded by two Zyran soldiers who stared at him like he was a dangerous creature. Not because he was strong, but because the Empress had chosen him. That alone made him a threat. Early the next morning, a palace messenger arrived. Human, he said, avoiding eye contact. Her Majesty wants you in the armor chamber. Now. Evan followed him through glowing corridors, past holographic walls showing the Empress's past victories. Every painting showed Kilira standing tall in her living armor, destroying fleets or taking enemy worlds. But today, she stood in a small private chamber, much quieter than her war hall. Her armor hung open like a sleeping beast, its golden veins dim. When Evan entered, she turned to him. You came quickly, she said. I'm not allowed to be late. Evan replied honestly. A small smile touched her lips. True. She stepped closer to the armor, brushing her fingers across a new crack near her shoulder. This damage formed during last night's meeting, she said. A council argument. My generals believe allowing you inside the palace is a mistake. Evan stared at the crack. Did they attack you? No, she said, but stress affects the armor. Fear, anger, distrust. It reflects the heart of its wearer. Then it must break a lot, Evan said before thinking. Kilira raised an eyebrow. A guard stiffened. Evan froze. Then the Empress laughed. Soft, short, but real. Fix it, she said. Evan exhaled in relief and picked up his tools. As he touched the armor, something strange happened. The golden veins lit up, brighter than before. A warm pulse traveled across the metal, spreading under his fingertips like the armor recognized him. Kilira's eyes widened slightly. It reacts to you faster, she said quietly. I'm not doing anything different, Evan said. But the armor is... She stepped closer, studying both him and the metal. Zyran armor reacts only to compatible energy. For it to pulse this strongly, there must be a connection. Evan had no idea what she meant. He only knew the armor was vibrating softly under his hands, as if alive, waking up, responding to every small movement he made. Then something even stranger happened. As Evan adjusted a broken nerve thread, the armor shifted, opening a small panel that no Zyran engineer had ever been allowed to see. A secret chamber. A heart core. Kilira inhaled sharply. The armor never opens that for anyone. Evan froze. Should I stop? No, she whispered. Her voice held surprise and something else. Something close to awe. Continue, human. Evan worked slowly, carefully. The armor glowed brighter and brighter. filling the room with warm gold light. Guards stepped back, their eyes wide. "It is bonding to him," one guard whispered. Kilira didn't deny it. Instead, she stepped closer, too close, and watched as a glow wrapped around both Evan and herself. The living armor had awakened, and it had chosen the human. The palace war hall was louder than usual. Generals argued, officers hissed, and the air felt charged with anger. Evan stood quietly behind Empress Kilira, holding his tools, trying not to look nervous. Everyone knew why the hall was tense. The armor had awakened for him, a human, a fact the Empire could not accept. General Raxer, the Empress's most aggressive commander, slammed his fist on the table. "This is a danger to the Empire. The human must be removed before the armor bonds with him fully." "The armor chose him," Kilira replied calmly. "It made a mistake." Raxer shouted. Her eyes narrowed. "The armor does not make mistakes." Raxer's gaze locked on Evan, sharp, cold, hungry for violence. Evan looked away. Kilira stood, human, stepped forward. Evan obeyed. The entire hall watched him like he was walking into a fire pit. Kilira pointed to the center of the hall, where her armor hovered. "Today we test the repairs. Continue the work." Evan nodded and lifted his tools. The living armor glowed softly as he touched it. Again, the golden veins lit up, stronger than before. Whispers erupted. "The armor responds too much. This is unnatural. He is dangerous." General Raxer growled. "Enough! This insult ends now." Evan heard the click of a weapon behind him. Kilira did too. "Raxer." Her voice was ice. "Stand down." But he didn't. Instead, Raxer leaped forward, blade raised, aiming straight for Evan's back. The hall exploded into chaos. Evan turned too late, but the armor didn't. In a flash of gold light, several plates snapped open and shot outward, forming a glowing shield around Evan. The force was so strong that Raxer's blade shattered against it, sending sparks across the room. Gasps filled the hall. The armor protected him. It defends a human? This cannot be. Evan stared, stunned, inside the shimmering shield. Raxer's eyes burned with rage. This is proof. The human threatens our throne. The armor bonds with him instead of you. Kilira stepped down from her platform slowly, each step heavy with power. She stood between Evan and Raxer. "The only threat here," she said softly, "is you." Raxer roared and lunged again, but Kilira moved faster. With silent command, her armor reformed around her body like liquid gold. She caught Raxer's arm mid-strike and twisted it until he dropped his weapon. "The human did nothing wrong," she said. "You did." Raxer fell to his knees, defeated but furious. Kilira turned back toward Evan. The shield around him slowly faded, as if it obeyed her desire, not her order. She walked up to him, close enough that the guard stiffened. "Are you hurt?" she asked quietly. Evan shook his head. "No, the armor protected me." Kilira's expression softened, barely, but enough for her court to see. That is what the armor does for those it accepts. A heavy silence spread through the hall. Nobody dared speak now, because they all understood the new truth. The Empress and the human were no longer just ruler and mechanic. They were becoming something far more dangerous, something the Empire could not stop. General Raxer was dragged out of the war hall, still shouting curses at the human. The guards pushed him away, but his voice echoed even after the door slammed shut. Evan stood quietly beside the Empress, trying to understand what had just happened. The armor protecting him, the attack, the shield of golden light. It all felt unreal. But the fear in the general's eyes was very real. Kilira turned to her council. "We continue." Nobody argued now. Raxer's failure had silenced even the bravest officers. She walked out of the hall, motioning for Evan to follow. He stayed a few steps behind her, unsure if he should speak. Inside her private chamber, Kilira dismissed the guards. The doors closed. Only she and Evan remained. For a moment, she said nothing. She stood with her back to him, looking out through a floating window, showing stars and distant planets. Finally, she spoke. Do you know why they fear you, human? Evan swallowed. Because the armor reacted to me? No, she said softly. Because of what that reaction means. She turned toward him, her golden eyes glowing brighter than usual. The armor does not protect strangers. It bonds. Evan blinked. Bonds like a machine link? No, she said, like a life partner. Evan stepped back. Life partner? You mean... Yes. Her voice was calm but serious. Zyran armor was designed by our ancestors to bond only with a compatible mate, someone whose energy complements the Empress's heart. Evan stared at her, stunned. That can't be right. I'm human. That is why they fear you, Kilira replied. If the armor chooses you, then the Empire must accept you, and many would rather die than see a human beside their Empress. Evan felt the weight of her words. He wasn't just in danger. She was too, because of him. But I didn't choose this, Evan said quietly. That does not matter, she replied. The armor did. Kilira stepped closer. Her expression was serious, almost conflicted. You saw what happened with Raxer. The armor defended you automatically. It reacted faster to you than to any Zyran I have ever known. She paused. It even opened its heart core for you. That has never happened in our history. Evan didn't know what to say. He was just a mechanic, a prisoner, a man who wanted to survive. How do we stop it, he asked. We cannot, she answered. The armor bonds by instinct, by truth. Her voice lowered. And the truth is that you are becoming important to it. A long silence hung between them. Then Kilira added more quietly than before, and important to me. Evan looked away, unsure how to respond. This wasn't a story he belonged in, yet he was standing at the center of it. A loud alarm suddenly echoed through the palace. Kilira's eyes sharpened. The council has discovered the bonding. Her voice turned dangerous. They are coming for you. Alarms echoed through the palace like rolling thunder. Red lights flashed along the crystal walls, and guards rushed past in tight formations. Evan stood still, his heart pounding, as Empress Kilira turned toward him with sharp, focused eyes. They know, she said. They know the armor is bonding to you. Before Evan could speak, the chamber doors shook under the force of someone trying to break in. Kilira stepped between him and the door. Her voice was calm, but her body was tense. They will try to remove you. They will call it protecting the Empire, but they only fear change. The door cracked. A glowing spear stabbed through the metal. Evan stared. What do I do? Kilira looked at him, really looked at him. You stand with me. The door burst open. Half the council guards stormed in, weapons charged, armor shining with blue light. Your Majesty, one of them shouted, the bond is forbidden. Step away from the human. Kilira didn't move. Lower your weapons. We cannot, the guard replied. We cannot allow a human to replace a Zyran mate. It will destroy the balance of the Empire. Kilira's eyes turned colder than space itself. The Empire will not decide my bond. The guards raised their weapons higher. Evan stepped back instinctively, but the armor hanging on the wall pulsed, once, twice, and then exploded into motion. Golden shards of living metal ripped through the air, wrapping around Evan and Kilira both. The guards froze as a massive shield formed, glowing like a small sun. Evan gasped as the armor tightened around him, forming plates across his arms, chest, and shoulders. He wasn't wearing it. It was choosing him. Kilira watched with stunned eyes. The armor is protecting us both. The guards charged. The armor didn't wait. In a flash of light, it pushed the attackers back with shock wave that shook the entire chamber. Soldiers crashed into the walls, stunned and terrified. Evan looked at his hands, now covered in golden armor. What is happening to me? Kilira stepped closer. Her armor merged with his, linking the golden veins between them like threads of energy. The armor is completing the bond, she whispered. More guards appeared at the doorway, but stopped when they saw the merged armor. One of them dropped his weapon in fear. The prophecy, he whispered. The Empress and the Chosen, united by the living metal. Kilira ignored them. Her focus was on Evan. I cannot undo this, she said softly. The armor has chosen you, and now the Empire must choose as well. Evan swallowed. And if they don't, then they will face their Empress, she said, raising her head proudly. She walked out of the chamber, Evan beside her, their armor glowing like twin flames. Every guard they passed lowered their weapon. Some knelt. Others simply stared, unable to believe what they were seeing. Finally, Kilira stepped into Great Throne Hall. The council awaited her, furious and frightened. Kilira spoke first. The bond is real, she said boldly. The armor has accepted him, and so do I. Gasps echoed across the hall. The head counselor growled. This changes everything. Kilira stepped forward, her voice sharp as a blade. Yes, it changes everything. She reached out and placed her armored hand on Evan's. Golden energy flared around them, lighting the hall like a newborn sun. From this day, she declared, the humans stand beside me, not as a prisoner, not as a servant, but as the one the armor chose. Evan felt the warmth in her voice and the weight of her trust. The council bowed slowly, forced by tradition, by power, and by the armor itself. The Empress turned to Evan. Welcome, she said softly, to the throne that feared you. And with that moment, the galaxy changed forever.